My name is Amy Hennon, and I'm the Managing Attorney for Housing and Consumer Law at the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. Today I want to talk to you about undue influence. Undue influence is often influence or pressure that is exerted on one person to another more vulnerable person in order to convince them to do something that is potentially not within their interest. An example of that might be if a family has 3 children and one of those children uses their position to convince an older adult to transfer money into the bank account of the child, and the older adult potentially needed that money for something else. Well, how do we avoid undue influence, or how do we avoid accusations of undue influence? Because both are bad. If you are the older adult or the more vulnerable person, the way that you deal with this is with open communication and only dealing with things in writing. And it's actually also the same if you are the person who's caring for the more vulnerable person. If you are the older adult, you want to have those hard conversations. You want to express your wishes. You want to tell people what it is that you want, and you want to avoid dealing in cash. You want to avoid dealing with things that don't have a paper trail. Putting your wishes into writing can be a way to avoid assumptions that are made, can be a way to avoid things that you don't want to have happening, and can be a way to ensure that if there were payments that needed to be made to somebody else, that those payments get made, and if there's a confusion or somebody says, oh no, it was supposed to be more money or less money or something else in the future, you can look back to that agreement that is in writing in order to be able to ensure that exactly what's happened and what's supposed to be happening is happening. And the same is true with having those conversations about what it is that you want to have happen, and then putting those agreements in writing. That can be a way to point to later that this is what you wanted and this is what you wanted to have happen. If you're a person caring for a more vulnerable adult, you want to have those hard conversations as well. You want to make sure that you are discussing things that person wants to have happen, but you also want to make sure that you're discussing with other family members what it is that is going to happen, or what it is that the older adult or the more vulnerable adult wants to have happen. That's the way. Getting buy-in from other family members is how you ensure that no one is ever going to say that you were doing something that was never agreed to, that you were doing something that the older adult doesn't want, if there's been communication about it all along. And then also the same way, don't deal in cash. Make sure that things are that there's an agreement in writing, that if payments have to be made from one person to another, if there's a family member who is directly caring for the older adult and some payment is being made for expenses or something like that, you want to have the paper trail for that. You want to have the reason why those payments are being made. You want to keep that all together. So if there's ever a concern, if there's ever confusion, those documents can be pointed to in order to demonstrate exactly what it was supposed to have happen. The other really big thing that comes up in these situations is negative and unfortunate family dynamics. And so this is the other part about communication, is trying to repair, and if not repair, at least openly communicate about what's going on. Because when there is that kind of dynamic where one family member doesn't trust another or doesn't think that the other family member is doing a good job, that's a situation where at least there might be an accusation of an undue influence. And so at least having the conversation, or at least expressing what's going on to that other party, that can be a way to help avoid those kinds of concerns. I hope you learned a little bit more about undue influence today and how to avoid it.